Right now, all new on the WHAS11 night team, one Louisville street in just a matter of hours becomes a nightmare of violence.
It's no talking it out, it's no, them fighting, it's just them shooting.
We'll have more on the two different attacks and a stunned neighbor. And then, keeping the name but saying so long to a Louisville housing complex that dates to World War II.
But now they have the opportunity to say, I want to live in Beecher Terrace.
Plus getting ready for legalized gambling on sports, the first in Kentucky, kicking off this week. This Kentucky racetrack is one of the designated locations. Right now on the WHAS 11 night team. Two different attacks within hours on one Louisville street. Hello, everybody. It's our top story on the WHAS 11 night team. Thanks for joining us. I'm Doug Proffitt. We are learning more tonight about the violence that happened on West Gilbert Avenue. First, a teenage boy is shot several times there. Then a few hours later, officers rushing back to the street for a reported stabbing. WHAS 11's Alexis Jones and photojournalist Emma Gefter were there as police arrived.
Louisville Metro Police officers rushing down West Gilbert Avenue twice in one day, leaving some who live on the street worried for their neighborhood's future.
It's just a lot of crime going on. It's a lot of shootings. It's just sad.
Victoria Johnson watched as one scene unfolded Tuesday while on her parents' porch. She says everything was quiet until several police cars swarmed the area just before 4.
And I didn't know what to think. But it was two different incidents going on.
The first one happened around noon. LMPD says officers found a teenage boy with multiple gunshot wounds at a home near South 22nd Street. He died from his injuries hours later. And just a few doors down, police responded to a stabbing at this home. Officers say two men had a fight inside the home near Wilson Avenue, injuring one of them on the arm, which Johnson says is out of character for the street.
It's peaceful around here, but it's normally like gunshots on like the outskirts.
She says seeing crime make its way in is a sign of where Louisville is heading.
Because it has gotten worse. You don't know if you're going to be here or not. The teenagers is dying before the adults. They're not even living their lives.
Causing Johnson to feel helpless for her children and the families nearby.
That's all you can do is pray because there's so much going on. That's all you can do.
In Louisville, Alexis Jones, WHAS 1119 on your side.
Police say, by the way, they do have somebody in custody for the stabbing, but they're still looking for suspects in the teenage shooting death. If you have any information that can help them, call their detectives by leaving an anonymous tip at 574-LMPD. You can also use the department's online portal. The family of a woman killed in a hit and run over the weekend is hoping now for justice, saying they don't want another family to go through what they're experiencing right now. 70-year-old Deborah Richardson was hit and killed on Cambridge Drive. That's off Southside Drive late Sunday night. Her daughter says Richardson was riding her moped back from the store just a block or two from home. LMPD investigators say the driver, believed to be in a red pickup, drove off. Richardson's daughter hopes LMPD's investigation will find the person responsible.
I don't want it to be just, oh gosh, that was a tragedy on the street and then something else comes along and nobody remembers who she was, what she did for people. And that her life would just be ended in that way and nothing further get carried through.
Lynn Lockhart describes her mother as an incredibly kind person, someone who would feed and clothe those in need and also help those dealing with addiction. If you have any information about the hit and run, the anonymous tip line again is 574-LMPD. Louisville emergency management officials say the EPA has wrapped up their work at that home in Highview where mercury was discovered on the driveway and in the home. The EPA completed the work at 6211 Applegate Lane on Friday. That's the vacant house where police say 53-year-old Mark Hibble had taken up residence as a squatter while his home next door was filled with chemicals and trash. Crews now need to remove that trash and debris from 6211 and repour the concrete. An emergency management spokesperson says the concrete likely won't be repoured until work at the home next door, 6213, that had the chemicals, Applegate Lane, is complete. The city originally had planned to burn down that home, but is now waiting for a recommendation from the EPA. Their decision is expected by the end of this week. That update comes as Mark Hibble appeared in court today. You see him here where the judge lowered his bond. Investigators say Hibble admitted to making and detonating homemade explosives at that Applegate Lane home. His attorney addressed why he had those chemicals during today's hearing.
He planned to go into business with another chemist. He basically got laid off, Judge, and he and his boss were going to go start their own chemical handling business. That gentleman passed away. Mr. Hibble was not able to move into that business as he had intended. So he had a lot of chemicals stored on his property that he had no purpose for anymore, and he had no means to dispose of them. Incarcerated.
Hibble's attorney also told the court that he has a mental health condition. He asked that Hibble be released to a social worker with Wellspring so that he could start his inpatient treatment. The county prosecutor argued that he's too dangerous to be released.
We still have a lot of unknown. We know that I'm going to disagree with the defense just a little bit on the no bomb making. We have found improvised blasting caps and ignition switches throughout the property. And with the dangerous chemicals, we think that he is still a danger to this community.
The judge agreed to part of Hibble's request. She dropped his bond, lowered it from $50,000 down to $10,000. If he is released, he'll be on home incarceration and will be required to be assessed by Wellspring. As for his house, his attorney entered a motion to preserve the evidence to save his belongings from damage. But until the city decides if or when they will burn down that house, they are holding off on that motion for now. Louisville Metro Police going to be increasing their presence along Bardstown Road and some other busy areas starting tomorrow night. It's one of the latest measures the city is taking to increase safety in the Highlands of Louisville, including a new zero-tolerance noise policy. The mayor has also suggested that bars consider closing at 2 a.m., something the backdoor owner John Dant says he has already started doing. Dan tells us he has seen less people out after 2 a.m., he says, because they're on pins and needles about their safety, and he welcomes the increased patrols.
The more they have out, the better off we are. It makes the citizens feel more safe, for those that are afraid to go out. That's a little peace of mind.
We asked Louisville Metro Police where the extra officers will come from given the current staffing shortage. The spokesperson told us the patrols will be covered by officers already working in that division that night and others on overtime. By the way, the 4 roads getting extra patrols are going to be Bardstown Road, Baxter Avenue, Frankfort Avenue, and Brownsboro Road. The attending physician for Congress, who is also Senator Mitch McConnell's doctor in Washington, says the Republican leader is in good health after freezing up last week. During that news conference in Northern Kentucky, Mitch McConnell froze, not answering a question and instead staring off without speaking for about 30 seconds. Today, his office shared a letter from Dr. Brian Monahan saying McConnell has had an MRI, EEG, and a comprehensive neurology assessment. The doctor says there are no signs of seizure, stroke, or neurological disorder. Today, the 81-year-old senator spoke on the Senate floor as the summer break comes to an end.
Now, one particular moment of my time back home has received its fair share of attention in the press over the past week. But I assure you, August was a busy and productive month for me and my staff.
McConnell has said he feels fine after the episode. All new right now on the WHAS11 night team. Brand new for World War II, but way out of date by today's standards. Now the Beecher Terrace housing complex's Louisville is entering its final stage. The remake sits on the edge of downtown Louisville, right in the Russell neighborhood, where it's always been. WHAS11 night team's Taylor Woods and photojournalist Elijah McKenzie talked to residents there about the old name with a modern new life. Taylor, quite the success story here.
Well, Doug, it's part of the Reimagine 9th Street project. This marks the 4th and final phase of the Beecher Terrace revitalization, and construction is expected to begin soon.
1, 2, 3.
210 new mixed-income apartments and commercial office space will be added to the final phase of the Beecher Terrace revitalization project in the Russell neighborhood.
Families going to be out there watching their children or just taking a walk around the neighborhood. It's a very positive thing for the Russell community.
The original Beecher Terrace opened in 1939 as World War II housing for defense workers. After the war, it was turned into public housing. The revitalization of the aging building started in 2016. Current residents like Sharon Mickens Bumpers lived in Beecher Terrace in the late 1970s. She moved in the 80s and came back, now living in the senior residence.
It's a nice place for seniors to live. It's a senior building that I live in, and so it's really a nice place.
Mayor Craig Greenberg says now is the time to continue the transformation in Russell.
It's time to find new and better ways to take on the related crises of homelessness and affordable housing. We must use this as an inspiration to address the challenges that we face.
Arias Carr still remembers the landscape of the community from a few years back. Carr moved away when he was 5 and came back where he spends most of his time at the pool.
I was just like they decorated like the whole thing. Like we didn't have no pool, we didn't have none of that.
Overall, this housing project is becoming an asset once again.
And I'm just imagining how beautiful these other ones they're getting ready to build is going to look.
Until then, Floyd is waiting patiently for housing to be completed.
And the final phase of the Beecher Terrace project is expected to be completed in 2025. In studio, Taylor Woods, WHAS 11 Night Team on your side.